Plan B is in effect. Proceed. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Lassiter.
Here.
Nemecheck.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Moody.
Here.
Newton.
Here.
Form present.
Before we get into the business of the meeting, I'd like to take a moment and have a moment of silence with Sheriff Lassiter. George Thomas Lassiter Sr. passed away on May 27th. George Sr. is the father of Boyne City City Commissioner George Lassiter. In 1977, Sheriff Lassiter began his 32-year career as Sheriff of Charlevoix County. At his retirement in 2008, he was the longest-serving sheriff in Michigan. After retiring from the sheriff's office, he began a career as a private investigator and was elected to the Charlevoix County Commission. He was a member of the Boyne City American Legion and was instrumental in creating and funding the Boyne City Veterans Memorial. Sheriff Lassiter and his family said will be remembered as a compassionate and fair lawman who always went out of his way to treat people as he would like to be treated. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda, the purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public will be asked that the item or items on the consent agenda be removed and placed as the last item under new business to receive full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. We have two items. Item A is approved May 24th, 2022 regular meeting minutes as presented. And B, approve the recommendation of Chief of Police Kevin State to authorize the city manager to extend the contract with Flexible for an additional year at a cost of $5,320. Any members of the public have a question on the consent agenda? Commissioners? If not, I'll make the motion for the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, moving on, we have citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Those wishing to address the commission on should move to the podium. Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. If you raise a question and we can answer it now, we will. If not, we'll get back to you before the next meeting. So, is there anyone in the audience with a
Hi, my name is Keith Bridger. I live on 450 High Street in Boyne City. I've attended a lot of these chamber meetings, and it seems like parking is always on the agenda. There's been studies that say we have enough parking, but there's a lot of citizens' comments that we don't have enough parking. So I just did a real rough draft on what I could see as some possible areas that we could turn into parallel parking to angled parking. Hopefully increase the number of parking spaces downtown. On Lake Street and Park Street, this already has sections that have angled parking. And if you look down the line, you can see there's enough curb and sidewalk, grass area before the sidewalk to be able to increase a couple parking sections of angled parking. By the Dilworth Hotel, there isn't any on that side, but that would be another additional space. So I'm proposing today is maybe a future angle parking. What I'm hoping for as we can increase parking downtown, we won't lose the opportunity of the next opportunity for Boyne City to have something cool downtown because parking is going to be an issue. So that's all I wanted to do. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm getting used to being up here. My name's Steve Person. I live at 437 Hopper Street. I got it explained to me after 6 meetings that you weren't selling the 40 spots. But I was kind of curious when I heard Tom say they're very valuable, which is true. However, this last Friday, stroll the streets. You had 2 streets blocked off and you could not use that parking lot. There was no spots in town to buy. I drove around 5 times. I could not find a parking spot, but 40 of them were taken up. And I can't figure out why, whenever you had in it, you didn't have on one of the streets that were blocked. That's my question.
Could you repeat the question?
Why they did not use one of the streets that were blocked off for whatever event you had going on with those 40 parking spots. They had a band back in there, something with the library, I think. I don't know, there were books up there. I don't know what I get a chance to stop because I wasn't gonna park a couple blocks away to find out.
Well, as I understand it, that was an event with Main Street in the library. They got a request to close the street so they can use it properly.
Right, I understand closing the street, but the parking lot, both angles, you had a fire truck blocking one street, you had barricades up on the other one right in front of the library on both ends. And on the other side of where the fire truck was, you had 2 streets blocked off. Why did you not move to the street?
Well, I'm not.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know who.
I think the best point of contact is probably Jordan Beck, Main Street Director.
Yeah, the library director. It was an event they organized.
Still trying to figure out why they blocked 2 streets off.
Well, if you ask them, they might be able to give you the answer.
Well, didn't you guys have to approve it?
No.
They can just block off.
It's an administrative decision. Anyone else? Okay.
My name is Penny Hardy. I live at 437 North Street. I am the president and treasurer of the nonprofit group, We the People of Boyne. Our intent is to get the people of Boyne City to become more involved, more aware, and to make what they think are priorities known to the commission. Because how can the commission make decisions we approve of if they have no idea what the people want? So that is our main goal. I would really like to work with City Hall, and I would like the citizens of Boyne to see there's been a lot of positive stuff. So let's focus on what things we need to take care of now, but remember to be grateful for the good changes we are seeing in Boyne. So I wrote a letter on behalf of our group. It was approved by the entire board. I read it to the membership that was at our last meeting. However, everybody wasn't there. So I had a consensus from the previous meeting, and I feel there may be a few people that are opposed to what I'm saying in this letter, but for the most part, it represents what our group feels about the marina. We the People of Boyne was formed to give a voice to the majority of citizens on important issues and projects by keeping them both informed and engaged. We would like to work with the commission, providing feedback and additional information to help the commissioners make sound fact-based decisions. Through research and FOIA requests, we have found a DNR's fishery report that did not support expanding the marina due to the negative impact on our local fisheries and other native species. We found that Lake Charlevoix has surpassed the recommended recreational carrying capacity already, and the more boats we add, the harder it is on our lake. And I think this lake needs to be beautiful for 100 more years at least. Also related to the EDA grant request, which ultimately was not approved. The commissioners were not given the opportunity to study the documents until days after it was submitted. There were 6 or 7 errors in the document, with a total omission of any known opposition, even though I had turned in 900 signatures against. And it still included the mooring field, which had been taken out, or so we've been told. Those are pretty big errors on a $6.2 million grant request. And I really think the commission should have been able to read it all over before it was turned in. Because these 3 new commissioners have come in late to the process, they decided to move forward with the expansion plan and grant application. At that time, the commissioners indicated that the marina expansion could only proceed if the EDA grant was awarded. Since then, electric service to much of our existing marina, which was already failing to meet current safety standards, was tagged as dangerous by county electric inspectors and disconnected. Our city manager and harbor master were aware of this issue in the fall of 2021, but they did not bring the problem to the commission itself until April or May. For these reasons, as well as possible pollution issues and loss of unrestricted access to public shorelines and adjoining waters, we feel that the past and current commissioners were not provided with all the facts in a timely manner to make a fully informed decision on the practicality of a marina expansion. Therefore, we, the people of Boyne, respectfully request that any marina expansion plans be permanently removed from future planning and instead focus our state grant monies already approved, bond proceeds, time, and staff resources on bringing the Grant Moore Marina within its existing footprint up to current safety codes and implement a clear and timely plan for replacement and maintenance going forward. Will you work with us? We would like you to focus on other important issues: affordable housing for workers and families within Boyne, regulations for short-term rentals, preserving our natural resources, our most valuable asset for the enjoyment and unrestricted access for all of our residents and visitors. And I know that you're having a special marina meeting later this week or this month. And at the first commission meeting, after that meeting, I would like to know what was discussed there. And I would like you all to think about considering what we've recommended and get our current marina taken care of and prove to the people we can not only fix it, we can maintain it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Dave Malicki at 890 Point Drive, and we really enjoy it here. It's a great place, and we're bikers. And I just passed out pictures that we took along the bike trail. And I don't know if the council knows, there's quite a bit of mess there. Somebody uses it as a personal dump, and it's just not, I don't think it reflects what you're trying to do here, this town. That's from the airport, the Boyne Mountain. Yeah. And a lot of this stuff was here when you made the trail. So I'm sure you guys knew about it way back when. Pardon me? Well, the blocks are new. Well, well, it's, I didn't.
Is it past the industrial park?
Yes. Yes.
When you said someone's using it as a personal dumping ground, do you know who that individual is?
Well, the property owners. Yeah, you guys should know who owns the property. And some of them are very close to the trail, so whatever easement you have, they're within the easement.
Okay, well, thanks for bringing it.
Okay.
Anything else? I just want to say there's quite a few letters that we received correspondence, and you want to speak on one of those letters that you submitted that we should do it now, but it's not.
Yeah, these are word notices. I'll start down here with those. You can pass them on. I try to separate them. Sure. And here's the pictures. I'll start with this one. And here's for the audience, if you're interested in staying up there. Maybe might split them up. Hi, I'm Jacqueline Boy. I live at 919 Lower Lake Drive. I'm here to inform the city council and the citizens here. I've been pacing the streets for days up here. I've lived up here for 60 years. No, 1960 I came. I'm 63 and I came 62 years ago. My father bought a cottage on Lower Lake Drive and now I'm living there. And I also have lived in a home on Bay Street. So I'm pretty well aware of what's going on, and I'm here concerning bubblers on our lake. Bubblers exist because we have permanent docks on our lake. Eagle, EGLE is at the state level is permitting these permanent docks to go in. We've had one show up here. Eagle does not have to talk to anybody on the lake that a permanent dock is going to go in. We knew the one on Lower Lake Drive off the cove there, it's actually Michigan Avenue, that the barge arrived and that's when we knew the permanent dock was going to go in. I was with Eagle on Friday and they said it's a minor project, they don't have to tell us. These docks are on the increase. I have now given the city council, Fenton Township, the city of Fenton, all the lakes have banned bubblers. They're dangerous. What the bubblers are actually doing is you put a permanent dock in, they can be upwards to be $150,000. And you put the dock in, you need a bubbler because our ice will take it out. And I wrote in my correspondence that there were 4 permanent docks, but Mr. Coyle told me there was another one down there and it was a floating type dock and it blew out with the ice. They were bubbling it. So anyways, the bubblers are now opening up our ice. The whole shoreline of north of our city. It is scary as heck. And this new one arrived down by Lower Lake Drive, took out our city access point, which is the largest city access point for all our public to go on. And I think that's a shame. I saw one ice fisherman go out this year. That's it. And I was in that house. It was still cold. My husband just died. I was up here all by myself. And I'm looking out the window and there were no kids coming. No one is coming to that beach. They can't go on the ice skating. Now on Bay Street, that's where I pretty much grew up. My dad was in the other house. We have 3 permanent docks. One is on 2 on Bay Street, and then there's one next door to it. We have a public access point there. It has been liquid my whole entire life, or whenever all these permanent docks went in. What are we doing to this city? I mean, this lake is all opened up. If you can see these pictures, it's a crying shame. And yesterday I was down at the Charlevoix Library with Eagle, with the Charlotte Association, they're going to continue to permit these docks. I think if we get another one on Bay Street, we will wipe out our whole North Shore line. I have pictures there that show everybody out on the ice. I went downtown, took pictures, standing at the launch with the ice boats that were out. I have to go to the boat launch to get on the ice right now. I think that's really sad. We need to ban bubblers. Other cities have done it. It's dangerous. Who's liable for it? I brought it to attention now that, you all know that this is not safe for our citizens. I've gone around the streets. Our citizens think nature took that water and made it water instead of ice. I'm like, no, you guys, you need to come to City Hall. You need to come and talk and demand that you get your ice back. If you ban the bubblers, they won't take permits out on these permanent docks. So I'm suggesting that we ban the bubblers like other towns have done on the residential properties in Boyne City. Does anybody have any questions? I'm a little passionate about it. Can you tell?
We appreciate you bringing it forward.
Yes.
It's just the opportunity for you to express yourself. And we appreciate you doing that.
Well, we're losing all our ice, and it's dangerous, and that's what this city is here for in the wintertime, and this is what brings money into this economy. And if we want to lose all our ice, it's a sad state. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
We're on the other side of that park. Would you like to come in? Sure.
My name is Kurt Price. I live at 941 Lower Lake Drive on the other side of that park she's talking about. We can't walk out our beach and go on to the water. We got to, like she said, go down to the boat launch to get out to the water or to get out to the ice. It's crazy. I would like to have, got a lot of young nieces and nephews and young family members starting to grow up that I'd love to have an ice rink out there, and they can't do it. We can't do it. There may be a way that she could turn those bubblers down to where it's not bubbling as, I know there's settings on those to where it's not going to take out the whole shoreline. I understand she needs them to keep her dock from, and she put a lot of money into it to keep it from deteriorating and getting taken out by the ice. But there's got to be some type of regulation that permits her to do so much with it and not have them full blast all the time, taking out the whole shoreline. It's really horrible. It really is. It's
The noise that they make.
in the noise, in our house, there's the condos next to her, and then there's another little half of a lot, 15 feet, and then there's our property. And they're so loud in our master bedroom, we can hear these things going all night long. I mean, it's crazy. There's got to be a way that they should be regulated to be turned down at least. I understand she needs to have them, and she put a lot of money into them, and the state allowed her to do it, which is wrong. But I just wanted to voice my concern as well. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I'm Bill Brady, and I live at 225 West Michigan. On John Street is the access to the lake. And over the last year, there's been work done on it. And at this point right now, there is no lake access on John Street because you cannot get to the lake from the work that was done. There's no stairs, there's no stones like on Charlotte Street. They did a nice job. They have stone steps going to the lake. And on John Street, you cannot walk. If you go to John Street and try to get to the lake, you cannot walk on those rocks and stones and just piles. And the other thing is they seeded it and they did a nice job as far as the grass, but the bag or the bundles of straw that were there, set there last September when we were here, are still there. It's, I mean, it looks like it's never been cleaned up. I mean, for us, our family to get to the lake, we have no access now, you know, and we live right there on the street. And there's people in the neighborhood that canoe and that, they can't get down. And so to me, I think the job was never completed. And to say there's an access sign there, might as well take the access sign down because there is no lake access. So that's that. But also on the deal of the bubblers, I think it's going to be an environmental issue. You know, from the fish or from anything, the environmental issue hasn't even been looked at. Because when you change nature, it causes problems. So if you don't look into the environmental issues, you know, 10 years down the road, whether we have all kinds of bubblers around the lake, it's going to ruin the year-round water use of Lake Charlevoix. So to me, we have to look into it. And I love Boyne City. I support Boyne City all the way. You guys do a wonderful job, but there's things that we have to look at and really, you know, complete a job on, you know, investigate it. And 10 years from now, we don't want an environmental issue on Lake Charlevoix because of we changed the environment and the water and the lake. So I'd like for you to just consider those issues. And if you don't believe me about no access on John Street, stop in, try to get to the lake on John Street. Can't go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My name is Michelle Archer, and I live at 401 West Michigan Avenue. And we have two public accesses, one the gentleman spoke of, and the other one that they did a lot of work on last year. But the one at the last bend in Bay Street, where it goes back up to West Michigan there, where Doc and Seal Powell used to live, and Newkirk's had it for a while, whoever. Anyhow, there's a bulb launch out there, a shore station right in the public access. So even if you were willing to climb off the wall to get into the lake, somebody's decided to make that their private boat launch. I don't see how that's permissible on a public access. Or has that been given away so it's still posted as a public access?
We'll check it.
Thank you.
And the same thing on Charlevoix Street, there's a trailer park and a handicap parking on Charlevoix access. You know, there's no handicap parking because there's a trailer park there.
Anyone else?
I already talked about the arena. I just wanted you to know that we, at our meeting, several people have voiced concerns about road access being kept open for the citizens and about better access to what are considered the Boyne City beaches, because it's really hard since you had to shore up the water line. So they're asking for stairs or something to be put in so people can actually get up and down to the lake without risking injury. Just wanted to know, I heard it quite a few times.
Anyone else?
As far as the bubble school, I'm sorry, I'll take a quick second turn. As far as the bubble school, this last winter, I'm a dog lover, had 3 dogs myself, and a lot of the people that us and our next door neighbors are the only full-time people there. Everyone else is a couple weeks out of the year. The dogs that are visiting though, especially mine have gotten used to it, they howl at night if they're out because of that noise from those things. They pick it up even if it's not quite perceptible by us. So I went to see what was going on, and it was the bubbler thing.
All right, anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on,
I didn't know if you were calling for anyone else on that.
I'm sorry.
So my name is Elizabeth Blues, and I live on 554 Snyder Road in Boyne City. And many of you probably know that today is June 4th, Flag Day. And I'd like to share some brief facts about our flag with, especially with some of the commissioners who are newer to the board. On this day in 1777, the Continental Congress adopted the following description for the American flag. Resolved that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field representing a new constellation. Of course, this description has changed with the number of stars and stripes in various ways throughout the years since this was done. But there are only 27 official American flags according to this resolution, from the time this resolution was set. And these flags are those that were created when one or more states joined the original 13 states in 1777, up to and including our current 50 stars and stripes in 1960. The interesting thing is that based on verified research that I've done in multiple sources, it should be known that the 76 flag, the Bennington flag, is not one of the official American flags. And this is based on research that's been verified by multiple sources and experts. The flag code is a federal law that sets forth guidelines for the appearance and display of the U.S. flag by private citizens. These guidelines specify times and conditions for display of the flag, manners and methods of display, and buildings where such display should occur. The guidelines for flag display vary based on the context and occasion, and there are detailed specifications for displaying flags at half-staff. Most of the flag code contains no explicit enforcement mechanisms, and relevant case law would suggest that the provisions without enforcement mechanisms are declaratory and advisory only, meaning you can violate the flag code but not being able to be done about it. In August of last year, an individual took it upon himself to take action which violated the federal flag code. This included lowering the official United States flag from a public flagpole, raising a banner in place of the United States flag, and then lowering the banner to half-staff in honor of service members coming home from Afghanistan. And those service members were draped in United States flags coming home from Afghanistan, if you recall that last August. So the irony of it all is that an individual taking action to correct the violation of the U.S. flag code can be prosecuted through current enforcement mechanisms pressed forth by a citizen owner of the banner raised on public property in violation of the U.S. flag code, which has no enforcement mechanism. So one of the 27 official, let me say that again, one of the 27 official U.S. flags is actually flying today at the Veterans Memorial. It's the 15-star flag, which actually had 15 stripes as well, until there was the executive order saying that the stripes should be limited to 13. My question for the city is, what is the significance of the flag that's being flown today, specific to today being Flag Day? What is its significance other than it is the second official flag of the United States, the first being the 13-star flag? And secondly, does the city commission or city administrator exercise any oversight or decisions made at the public city-owned, I believe, Veterans Memorial? Those are my questions.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. This correspondence, we have received an email from Jeff Polkowski. We received a letter from Katie Meadows. A letter from members of the Parkside Association. A thank you card from Marlene Moore. Notice from the State Commission for the Michigan Public Service Commission. Notice of hearing to the electric customers of Consumers Energy Company. Case number AS-2-21233. A letter from Penny Murray, We the People. A letter from for the air summary. And email from Jacqueline Moore.
Yeah, in regards to the correspondence 5G, Marina D down for electrical repair summary, is there a specific reason that was correspondence and not an old business item?
There was no action recommended at this time. We have the meeting coming up at the.
Will this summary be in the 28th meeting?
I would assume if we wanted to get it to the commission and the public so they had a chance to look at it. And if they had any questions, they could start to bring it up before that meeting.
Okay.
Can we get two updates, Mr. Mayor? One would be on the Parkside Association. Scott, just wanted to hear an update. Number two, keeping our facilities clean. We've had such good success with our current subcontractor. That address, is that out of ordinary?
That's if you want to give a brief little update, I can get into the Parkside Association.
Sure, Mayor. Last Thursday, I facilitated a meeting between the Homeless Association of Parkside and Mr. Grant and his team. They met.
Just everyone might not know we're talking about the Foxborough development on Jefferson Street.
Right. Foxman development. The Homeless Association wants some concerns to the city commission. And was requested to see some kind of meeting between the groups to be facilitated. I arranged that, and we met last Thursday at noon. There were probably half a dozen association members there, and schools there. It was a good communication. I don't think they were totally satisfied. Some of the answers. Mr. Braxton is continuing to review the situation. And hopefully, the communication will be ongoing. Facilitate other issues, immediate concerns of the hours operations, construction and dust, and safety concerns and ditches. Those are going to take care of more long-term issues of rising groundwater, some of the buffering situations.
In regards to Katie Meadows' letter about the restroom, we received a letter 3 to 4 weeks ago following the mushroom festival about the condition of the pavilion. She described some situation that wasn't good for any of us. It was clean. I don't know, like, have you heard anything else? I know we had all the restrooms.
I had some discussions with the DPW personnel to see what additional items we could do with it. It received a full cleaning after that, but it did not right after them in the instances that she came up with.
Just gives us more ambition to do it. Good job keeping their schools.
Well, before Elizabeth stole my thunder, I was going to wish everybody a happy Flag Day as well. So I do that. Wanted to let everybody know in the City Commission that Mark, our wastewater superintendent, Mark Fowler, has advised me that he'll be retiring from the city effective Friday, July 1st. So we'll be working on replacement for Mark's position. The Boyne City Police Department has received its new electric bike that was made possible by a gift from John McLeod and the annual fundraiser that they hold at Classic Instruments. The e-bike has received final touches such as labeling, proper markings and lights and things of that nature so that it can be put into service. And it was available. You might have walked past it when you came into the building downstairs in the lobby. Major progress is made since our last meeting on the old City Park gazebo reconstruction, with only a few items remaining to be completed before it can formally be put back into service. But the trailers are gone, the tarps are all down, and it looks in pretty good shape, but they do have a few minor items to get before they can have their final inspection. Work is well underway on the Lincoln Street reconstruction with the contractor Monti Construction working in the westerly 2 blocks. An issue with the water system has been found that will require the installation of a new insertion valve on the 12-inch main on South Park Street. And we're looking to place that valve just south of Franklin Street, so it's not in any of the new pavement or near any of the new pavement that we just put in. It is expected to cost about $16,216 plus some possible ground restoration fees in case they do get into pavement. Prior to this coming to light, the project was running about $10,000 under budget. The first stroll of the streets of the season took place last Friday. We had some comments on that earlier. Overall, it appeared to go pretty well. And we will check in and look at the contact for Steve to follow up on his questions. We're looking to relocate the drinking fountain at the top of Avalanche, which has had a spotty operation history over the years. It has such a spotty history in part because it is above, it should be above the city's south end water storage tank and needs a pump to develop water pressure to make it run. So it actually has negative water pressure. The rest of the town has very good water pressure, but that, because of its elevation, does not. That pump has failed every few years and is in a difficult and costly place to replace. To avoid these problems going forward, we're looking to relocate that drinking fountain to the bottom of Avalanche near the warming house so that the water pressure shouldn't be a problem and people can get a drink or fill their water bottles from there. We're also looking to get the Veterans Park Stone Fountain, which is just out here, back into service this summer. It has had a leak in its supply line that's caused the area to flood out in the past. Fire Chief Dennis Amesbury was able to work out a deal with our radio contractor where they were able to donate a system that allows us to manually activate the siren that we have out here for both fire and weather signals. And we can do that from inside the fire hall, and that is at no cost to us. They worked out an exchange of services that helped us do that. Well, that's not as good as the 911 activated system that we had until the early part of this year. It provides us another option to notify the public that something is up in case of possible emergencies, like what took place in Gaylord not too long ago. Speaking of Chief Amesbury, he's not present here tonight so that he can be down with the rest of the fire department. Tuesdays is their usual training day. This evening to be trained on the new battery-powered Jaws of Life that the City Commission recently approved the purchase of, and which the Firefighters Association is helping to pay for. I'm sure he'll have something to share with us on that before too long. We've been advised that Harbor Springs Excavating has the new water main loop completely run around the new Daifuku plant that's over by Lexmark Drive to the M75 entrance. And then it goes along M75 to Mall Drive. The last step is to hook that up to the water main at Mall Drive, which will then complete the loop. And that is scheduled to take place next week. We just learned today that contractors will be boring under Division Street for the water service at the new house that'll be on the south side of the division between Leroy and 2nd next Tuesday, the 21st. The water main is on the north side and under the bike path that runs along Division Street there. That means that the bike path will be closed at this location for the day and then until gravel can be placed in it, and then finally have the blacktop restored. So I just want to give people a heads up on that. And we have an example here of one of the old city commission chairs that we had in the old city hall. It's a Han chair. We have 26 of them that were used in the old commission chambers. And I remember how proud everybody was of them when they got them some 20 years ago. But the last 5 or 6 years, they've been in storage and pretty much just taking up space. And we haven't found a use that we need for them. And that's basically been since we moved into the building. As you can see from checking out this chair, if you'd like to, even though they're 20 years old, they're still in pretty good shape. We've reached out to different groups to see if anybody could find a use for them. So far, the Boyne Arts Collective is another group that we've been able to reach that's kind of expressed an interest in it. They're a nonprofit organization, and they say they'd be willing to take them for their use in their new offices above Cafe Sante. So unless there's another idea, we'll plan on donating them to the Arts Collective. There's no rush on this, but I wanted to bring it up in case anybody else had some ideas that they thought we should check out. So if you have any questions on these or additional items, please let me know.
No, the only question was on chairs. Do we have any use for them down at the museum?
No, we talked to, that was one of the first groups I talked to, Marty. I asked Keisha in that group if they had any use for them, and they indicated they did not. You're welcome.
The Economic Development Corporation meeting May 16th, the Local Development Finance Authority meeting May 16th, and the Planning Commission May 16th. Questions? Okay. Moving on, old business, we have no items. Move to December 9th, new business, splash pad donation. Consider the recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Board for the splash pad and to move forward with the project after staff investigates the annual operational and maintenance costs and checks the references of the business regarding installation and services. Right?
Yes. Several months ago, after the sale of the proposed Boyne Area Community Center, which is the old Masonic Lodge across the street from us here, the Community Center's board president, Jim White, approached the city to see if we would be interested in using the proceeds from that sale and other donations that they'd received to purchase and install a splash pad for the public use as a community benefit. The Park and Recreation Board discussed several possible locations for the splash pad at a number of meetings in the last few months and ended up feeling that it made the most sense at Peninsula Beach Park. Several different options had been provided from some that require electricity to no electrical requirements, different drainage options, materials, etc. And these are the requirements of the splash pads themselves. Board members expressed concerns regarding annual maintenance and operational costs and water consumption. All of the questions, concerns, and suggestions had led Mr. White to his most current design option. In addition, the cost of the current option being considered is less than others that they had explored because it utilizes volunteers for the preparation and installation. The remainder of the funds that would be left over from this could be used for a future expansion of the splash pad if it became a popular feature in the park and there is increased use or filled for a future need. The general consensus of the Park and Recreation Board was that they were in favor of accepting the offer from Jim White and the Boyne Area Community Center of a donated splash pad to be placed at Peninsula Beach, just east of the restroom building. Also to continue to have staff work with Mr. White and the volunteers to organize and install the project. So there was a motion that was made at the Park and Recreation Board's May 12th meeting, which was moved by Sterling and supported by Smith and ultimately passed unanimously. A motion to recommend approval for the splash pad
and to move forward with the project after staff investigates the annual operational and maintenance costs and checks references of the businesses regarding the installation and service. There is, this is coming up on the screen here, is the map showing the proposed location. This is Peninsula Beach Park, obviously the beach area here. This area labeled 1 is the approximate location proposed for the splash pad. It's the one closest to the sidewalk. It's a 50-foot circle. That's with regards to it. It would have a number of features. It uses about 60 gallons per minute. It is a user activated. There's a push button in the middle of the pad. So it's not running all the time. The people would push this button, which is not electric. It's basically kind of like you'd use on a drinking fountain or some of your sink dispensers. You push the button and it runs for a period of time, and then it shuts itself off. There is an optional, and I think there's a picture of it included in this packet, an optional battery operated timer that can basically control the overall system, so you can limit the hours of operation on a daily or on a daily basis. The proposal that originally came from Mr. White talked about the possibility, and he strongly suggests, after this first pad is been completed and in operation for a period of time, and if it generates the interest that he expects and that I've heard from other communities that have done something similar, to put in a second pad here as well too, using the funds that they have left over from this project as a base, and then going for some additional grant funds on this as well too. Just also relevant for the commission's overall knowledge of what the the park board is thinking, excuse me. There is a proposal from the Rotary Club that has been previously approved by the park board for a small shelter, about a 20 by 20 shelter on the other side of the sidewalk is the location that they're proposing to have it go. And they think these items would complement each other as well too, or work independently. There's additional information. Let me see, hang on a second here. Get to the screens. This was the proposal that was included in the agenda packet. This is a drawing of the features that are being proposed at this park with this splash pad. These do come in a number of predetermined options. This is what they call option C. Mr. White reached out to the company that produces these and thought this was the most popular option, and also has features that range from very young children to maybe some younger teenagers as well too. This is just another view of the features in here as well too. A couple more pictures on it. Some more design information. A picture of the button that's in the middle. Basically, again, this is the activation button that's on a post that's there, and all the water from the circle drains towards this location as well too. They say it's very easy to install. Let's see what else we got here that might be of interest before we move on. This is the actual proposal that they have with regards to it. Again, the feature itself is a little, just about $66,000 itself for the main components of it. Then there's some of the additional material, concrete, rebar, things of that nature that would have to be purchased as well too. The amount of money that the group has available to bring towards this project is $135,000 approximately, which is well in excess of what would be needed for this first phase. And is again mentioning leaving additional money left over for it. Again, copies of the proposal, and this is a copy of that timer valve that would be available as well too. So that's some background with regards to it. One of the references of the company, and not this particular model, but this type of splash pad. This is basically different than the splash pads that you have in Charlevoix or Traverse City, which are recirculating the water and treating the water, and sometimes mistreating the water, which basically have to be operated like a pool, are very high intensive with regards to maintenance. This is basically a one use of the water. The water is pumped out directly from the city water system, much like any other tap or shower water would be. It's not heated. It is not recycled or anything of that nature. The water comes out through the features, goes down the drain, and then goes into the water system itself. We actually don't know, other than with the amount of water it uses per minute, the actual consumption of water. We don't have any real numbers that we can give you because you don't know how much time it's actually operating. It's all going to depend on how much use it gets, how hot the weather is, how many kids are out there playing with it, things of that nature. So that's really hard to estimate as well too. One of the things that was discussed at the most recent Park and Recreation Board meeting was the anticipated very low maintenance costs with regards to this, but possibly having the donors set aside a certain amount of money, $5,000 or $10,000, that could be used for future maintenance until we get a real feel for what those operational costs would be. The city does not charge the Parks and Recreation Department for water consumption at this time. So that's a summary of what I have at this point. I don't know if there's anybody else here, if Jim or any of the other folks talked. Yeah, there he is in the back. I'm sure he has a lot more he could tell you about it. Unless there's any questions for me at this point. Okay.
Okay, hi. First of all, this is called Boyne City Center, not Boyne Area Center. We started years ago, and it's the Mason's building next to Betty's Dresser, Robert Trusser, excuse me. And we sold it, and the money we had, we decided to use it for. Most of that money was made by donations from community members and businesses or fundraisers at the high school, Barn Arts Center, entertainers around the country. So as far as maintenance, I did talk to the, whatever he's called, the township manager about Secret Township. They have a real small splash pad. And he said their only maintenance was the water at the end of the year. They're not, this doesn't have any electricity, so there's no solenoids that will fail or get the cement. Everything is done by one of the kids pushing a button, and then everything turns on at once, and 9 seconds later it turns on. Some kid has to run over everything again for 9 more seconds. So it's an easier splash pad to build because there's only one drain right in the middle, like I said, and you have multiple drains, and you have no electricity on all the work. We do have water in that bathroom. That was my first choice for location, but that building has nice bathrooms and changing station installed, and outside showers, so it's a shower. If the board rebuilds that shade structure, they will give a place for us to sit in the sun, sit under the shade, and watch your kids and grandkids play in the beach or the lake. And there's also 2-inch water line, which is necessary right there, and that building is used to sprinkle the park. And it could be done in the morning, early morning, to sprinkle the grass, or late at night, and then park is used every day. Mike said you can regulate the time. This thing operates, the kids have to go there 2 in the morning and play it if you have to turn it on. And that's all run by a battery around that activates the sound, it just shuts it off. So the plan that we came up with the money that we got is to build the first one, and the community center will actually build it and pay for it and then donate to the city. And that Mike solves problems with the city likes to accept things we put together, accepting the money and do it themselves. Otherwise, they get 3 bids. I find it's pretty money. And this is designed for the community build. It's called the consultant, just coincidentally, he lives in Charlotte, and he'll be overseeing the volunteers who put together. And sure, it can be done. It's done by other communities around the country. They're done in Michigan right now. One's being built, it's supposed to this summer, courtyard on it. It's a real simple one. It's water just floating on the ground. I was gonna have things overhead to make it more exciting for older kids. Okay? Anything else? Any questions?
We'll come back to our.
Pardon?
Thank you. We'll
Okay.
come back to any questions.
Thanks.
Comment? Yeah. Same rule applies, 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Michelle Nickel-Frost. I live at 130 West Lincoln Street, so I'm between Maple and Douglas in the Peninsula Beach Park area. So Jim, thanks so much for thinking of the kids. I think it's a really amazing project. I have lots of memories of my kids at the Charlevoix splash pad, so I think that's a really great thing. On the other hand, any splash pads that my children have been to since they've grown up, but now I have a senior, so she's not a splash pad gal, have not been in residential parks. And so I do have a strong concern about the splash pad being located in a residential park, the Harbridge area, the condominiums, the homes across the street, and our complete neighborhood. We utilize that park for stargazing. We go down and walk our dogs. We have picnics down there. It's a really nice, quiet neighborhood park. Now, granted, there are events there, whether it's, launching a mountain mayhem or different things like that. But my concern when I saw the letter was that it was being put in a residential community when we have a lot of public parks in more populated, in more business-oriented areas, whether it's Sunset Park or Veterans Park or the new place across from Family Fair. And I'm sure all of those were probably considered the Parks and Recs. So my apologies for getting into this discussion so late in the game. So my concern was that I wanted to see if I was the sole one out in our neighborhood thinking about this. And so today in my mad dash to be prepared for this meeting, I visited 21 homes. And of those 21 homes, over 90% of those people signed a petition that they do not want the splash pad at Peninsula Beach, but are in full support of the splash pad. Oh,
You just didn't get to my door.
I didn't. I knocked on a lot and I went to the Harbridge, but a lot of people, of course, are weekend people, so I didn't reach them. So again, my congrats to Jim for getting it this far, but I just feel from my perspective and from those who I talked to, and I walked Lincoln, Douglas, Maple, Cedar, and West Street, and of those, only 2 people were not interested in signing the petition. One woman said, "Sounds nice, I don't really care about it," and the other person said they felt that they needed a little more information. So I provided the letter and other things that I found on the website. So I think because of that, I also did a little research on area parks where my kids have been. Charlevoix being one is in a more public area. Traverse City is in a public area, and any others that I thought of are not in a residential community. So just would really like the commission and Parks and Rec to reconsider a different location for the splash pad. Love the idea, just feel that it needs a little more thought before we approve something to be near where people live. That will change the dynamic of that park, the lighting, the noise. And I didn't know about the pavilion until today. I'm sure a pavilion would be well served across from Family Fair in another area where there's shade. When I talk to people, they just want trees. So for shade. So again, thanks, Jim. I think it's a really awesome project. I just think that we should really talk it through a little bit more before we move forward with something that affects so many people who live right there.
Would you be willing to give us any of the material in the petition?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And again, I'm not a petition writer, so I don't even know if I did it properly, but I will give you what I have. Jim, did you have any questions about my thoughts? Okay.
Jim, we'll come back. Okay, we'll do another public capital source, okay? Is there anyone else from the public who wants to comment?
All right. Hello, my name is Haley Tanis. My family owns 315 Front Street. It's directly across from Peninsula Beach Park there, right on that street. And I just want to bring observations that we have seen living there. We love the location. It's amazing, but it's a very different atmosphere on that street compared to different areas in this town. We want to bring forward some of the things that we've seen just with cars and the safety of that street and this concern regarding the splash pad. We think it's a great idea and we think that it would greatly benefit our community, but we think a different location again would be better to be considered. Living on that street, we often see cars, especially late at night, leaving Friggies, coming out of town, reaching upwards of 40, like very high speeds that far surpass the speed limit. I myself am the oldest in my family. I have younger siblings, younger friends. And it's often a struggle for us. We're scared sometimes for them to cross the street alone. We don't want them trying to go across the park because they can't be seen by cars, and cars don't often stop for kids there and are not paying attention. We have specific instances. My neighbor Nancy is here. Her house was egged last year after we tried to get a car that was doing joy laps consistently around the block. A truck came by multiple times going at high speeds, and multiple neighbors came out telling the car to stop. It came back, there was no altercation. He was yelling at us, and they came back and egged their house later that night. So there have been instances with speeding, with people not obeying the speed limits there. And we think that the splash pad attracts kids as it should and families to come play in the park. But it's not the safest location and other things need to be considered. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
I apologize for never coming to a meeting. I've lived here almost 4 years and I've never been to a meeting. I appreciate what you do. Nancy McKin Street. I live at 313 Front Street and McKin Street. Spend a lot of time on my front porch, so I echo everything that Haley said about the park. We moved here from we moved here from Bay Harbor Lake. We couldn't stand the bubblers anymore. and we couldn't stand the circus in town. It was noisy all the time. And we love the quiet. That's why we live at 313 Front Street. And we love the sunset. We love the minimal lighting. We love when it's farmers market. And, you know, there's a little activity, but it goes away. It's not there every single night. And, besides those kind of personal reasons why I would really hate to have that be every night and maybe expanding. Some of my observations are that currently at the park it's families during the day, but from like 5 to maybe curfew, it's teenagers and they don't cause any problems. They're good kids, but I'm just saying as one more little element in there. And I know you can control the timing of it. That would be really important. I would hate to see it go until sunset, but you know, maybe it would. I don't know. I'd be concerned about that. I just want my quiet front porch, even though the traffic is loud. I want it to be the way it is, fairly serene. Some of the things I'm thinking about, just from a logistical, legal standpoint, though, how old is there an age requirement? Like, can 10 fourth graders come down from the neighborhood unattended? You know, who's going to watch them? What happens when they fall down? I go to the Charlotte Boyne Marina a lot, and it's very active. But you've got a harbor master there. You've got deck kids that work in the docks. You got parents, little kids. It is public, like somebody mentioned. There's always supervision. I don't know that there always would be over there in that little corner of the park. I don't know. Charlevoix gets a little wild at times, I have seen. And if it goes into the evening, it is the teenagers and they can use it, which I would if I was 15 or 16. What if they get really loud? Do I call the police? What do I do? I've never had to call the police on any noise before. That's a concern. It is a residential neighborhood. Lighting bothers me a lot. And who will it attract? Are cars going to be driving? Because there aren't community pools and splash ponds around very much. They're going to be driving in and I think there's like 15 parking places over on that end and maybe 15 that way. I don't know where they're gonna park. So I was concerned about that. The other thing is, I don't think I've ever seen one of these next to a beach. Maybe there have been, I don't know, I haven't been around that much. But if I was a kid, I'd be in the beach, in the splash thing, back into the sand, back in the splash thing. So just drain in the middle, handle sand. I hope it does. So that's something to think about. And if it happens, I just hope one thing, two things. I have two things. If it happens across from me, I'll be disappointed. But enforce the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit because it's a disaster on our street. We need to talk to the police about that. And then the lights have got to be off well before sunset. They'll destroy the whole neighborhood. So that's it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to address a couple things that were said. Being here over 15 High Street, on the Parks and Recs board, we studied this and looked at it for a long time, trying to find what we thought should be the right spots. Winslow Beach was chosen for the fact that kids are already going to be in the bathing suits. The families are there, the parents, grandparents are there to supervise them. Located next to the bathroom, which the kids are walking to anyways. They're not expanding the park, they're not going farther towards Front Street. We put it away from the actual beach because of the sand issue. So the kids are coming out of the sand, they're walking through grass, and then hopefully clean all the sand off the feet prior to getting in the splash pad. There's no lights on there. So there's the lights on there. Virtually no sound, and the time can be regulated, so it's not on all the time. We looked at it as kids that are already at the beach and parents are there. We're going to let the kids use the splash pad. That's what it is.
I think the concern about the traffic is more difficult because around there sometimes. Can there be a much better marked crosswalk? And perhaps even one with flashing lights so that someone can push a button on their crossing. Because that would add a lot to the safety of the kids crossing that street to get to the park. Yes,
Jim was going to be next that week. So if public comment and people, if there's anyone else who wants to comment for the first time, if not Jim.
Well, it's a surprise to me that somebody could walk around and get everybody against it. Do those people that live across the street on Front Street, do they pay taxes on that part, Mike?
Everybody in the city pays taxes to support that park.
And there's no lights on it. We're not gonna have a big stadium, you know, people to cheer around, people, the kids will play. I grew up in a neighborhood, kids play baseball all the time, middle of the week. Somebody couldn't play baseball. So I'm disappointed that something like this to come to a city. The fact that Charlie puts theirs in a heavily populated area. One of the reasons he chose this was it's less traffic. The kid never wanders off the splash pad towards Front Street, well, our yard where it gets to the traffic. Well, I don't know what you're talking about traffic, I'm not sure where people crossing the street. Maybe that idea of one of those things that don't know that we have here at Lake Street, saying the kids can walk there. But saying that 20 people or 22 said we don't want to do it for kids.
That's not what it is.
Please.
My time is operating on the.
Hey, anyone else?
My name is Gloria Gargino. I'm at 315 McKinley Street.
And I love the idea of a splash pad and where it's located. I think it makes sense. As someone said before, parents are there, there's supervision. Everything, and they have outdoor showers, everything is set up perfectly, I think. So splash pad area, but I also think it's a little off topic, but something for teenagers to have. And because we see a lot of vandalism and there's just not enough for them to do. A lot of them are pushed away and just pushed out of their homes, or, you know, there's not a lot for them to occupy their time. So we see vandalism, they're kind of deterring other people in public areas, parks, being noisy, music, and I don't know, I think if we brought something else to the town as well for teenagers, that could help solve that problem. I know they had years ago a teen jam, but there's also, you know, we could brainstorm ideas. But I just think that would be something they could bring into the town, brainstorm some ideas. And, I don't know, there has to be like arcade. My husband thought of a pool, or maybe just the movie theater. I would love to see that come back. Maybe movie theater / arcade. I know that would take extensive funds and time. But these teenagers are a huge problem more than anything else to the town, from what I noticed. So.
Could you tell the audience why they have such a good perspective on the
Yes, I own the Happy Northern cleaning service, and we clean all the public buildings and restrooms. And I'm not sure of the comment during Mushroom Fest. Unfortunately, Joe and I had COVID, so we had to do a lot of phone calls with our employees to try to keep up on that. But we see this all the time. Soap thrown around. We see toilet paper. Who knows what it's soaked with? Thrown on the walls, the ceilings. We see feces like on the walls, toilets all over. We see a number of things. I mean, if you think of it, we've seen it. So, and we also see them vaping and causing a lot of problems in the pavilion. We like to hang out in the pavilion. And Peninsula Beach is another one. We have a lot of problems with that. So being thrown everywhere, being trashed, the trash cans being dumped over. It seems like they go in there late at night, because during the 2 times a day that we clean, we don't really usually see it like early morning when we go in. So they're coming in there. I don't think the doors close properly on the timer at night. And it also we really need to renovate that part of that restroom or rebuild completely. It needs a lot of attention. Because everything else is looking so beautiful, but that's one of the parts that people spend so much time at. And yeah, we really need to focus on that as well, I think. And I know there's been talk about it, or some plans in the works down the road, but I think that's a huge issue and safety, because some of the stalls have rusted out so much that they are, or you can kick it over, somebody can get caught on it or cut themselves. So I think that's another thing. But I think the splash pad idea being right there with parents' supervision, everything's already located, the showering, restrooms, all that. Great.
Anyone else? Okay, we move to if you want to start it off.
Sure. So my first question would be, reading through this, it's about, please allow 6 to 8 weeks for production time from time of approval, submitted package, including color selection, plus transit time, etc. So I guess this is kind of, question for Pete and Michael. What is the desired timetable of getting this thing up and running and having kids splashing around? Is it next week? Is it this project something that you're looking to have completed by next summer?
I think we're not defining timeline of the season.
On the season.
Operation towards the end of this year. So it will be not too, probably.
This is Michael Sheen speaking, who's the chair of the Parks and Recreation.
Okay. And at the previous commission meeting, I asked, just reading through this agenda item, consider the recommendation from Parks and Recreation Board for the splash pad and to move forward with the project after staff investigates the annual operation and maintenance costs. At what point in time do we begin that investigation process and looking at what the annual operation and maintenance cost is going to be? I know I travel, spend a lot of time filtering through social media. And I'd say goose poop is one of the major complaints down at Peninsula Beach. So to throw a splash pad up there and to say we're not going to increase our staffing by 1 hour in maintaining, taking care of this, I think is going to be completely naive. Who's going to be cleaning the geese poop off in the park? At what point in time do we look at what that annual operation and maintenance costs? Because for me, I spoke weeks ago on saying, those are the numbers I need to make a decision. So we're not building something and then getting pictures like this handed to us 5-6 months down the road as a commission, because we're not maintaining it or taking care of it correctly. So I want to make sure I'm in full support of a splash pad. I want to make that very clear from the get-go. I'm absolutely in support of a splash pad, but I want it to be done correctly. I want it to be done right. I want it to be planned correctly and done correctly from the beginning. And to make a decision without having the annual operation and maintenance costs is a very, very difficult position to be put into.
Well, yeah, to echo what Tim said, we talked a little bit about that aspect of the it was offered up. Is that a true statement? I guess, Jim, that, I mean,
I have one comment about what Tim said. Mike, can you tell me that the community center purchased a lease repellent, $375, has a 6-month guarantee, 100-yard radius, that will keep the geese, they won't nest there, they won't hang out there, they'll go someplace else. So how it's built away, is it installed yet, Mike?
No, it's up at the DPW waiting for installation.
like, yeah, I'm all over my house.
A company in Minnesota, they said they get 100% money back, because less than 2% people say they want money back.
I lose that battle. So is it true, Jim, that they're willing to, post up an additional funds until we see what the maintenance costs are going to be? That's what you spoke to.
I would again address that question as you did initially to Jim. That was discussed at the Park and Recreation Board. There seemed like there was some support for that from the park board members. When the first phase is built, there is going to be a significant amount of money that is left aside for what they're proposing is potentially a second splash pad. But again, that was the park board hasn't committed to that. It was all contingent upon seeing how this one worked out, see what the demands are, if there were any unintended consequences of that nature. Going back to Tim's comment, most of the areas, again, it's going to be hard to quantify those costs. We do have, Jim talked about in the wintertime preparation that we're out blowing out the irrigation systems anyway. We're going to be right there next to this at the river. If this is at Peninsula Beach Park, we're blowing out the sprinkler system that's right adjacent to it that this will be tapping into the water supply for. So, I mean, you're gonna have some miscellaneous hours here and there. If the geese do become a problem and this device doesn't work, then yeah, we would be out there on occasion hosing that down. But again, how do you put quantities with that? I'm not sure at this point. It's not that we didn't want to answer the question, and that's why I raised the possibility of setting some monies aside to at least give us an indication or transition into this. I mean, in some respects, this is very similar to other projects that have happened in the community. The community playground that we have, the wooden park next to us, that was a community build project. There are some ongoing maintenance costs. They did have some money set aside originally to help transition into that. But as we know, there's some ongoing maintenance with regards to that. The dog park, which was an unknown quantity when we went into it, again, has been one of the most popular things that, one of our parks that we put in recent years with regards to it as well, too. But again, a lot of that came up with regards to private donations, groups putting in the time and effort to make that happen above what the resources of the city has, again. I did talk to the manager in Lance, Michigan, which has a park very similar to this, put out by the same company. They say it's one of the most popular things that they've done in their community in a long time. Does that say that that will have the same success here? No, but I haven't heard of anybody that had a negative reaction with regards to it. So, will it change the use of Peninsula Beach and increase it? Yes, but we've gone through a lot of changes in Peninsula Beach in the last 20 years. It wasn't that long ago that we had the city's wastewater treatment plant there on that site. Most of that area behind that berm that is out there on the southwest corner of that was the wastewater treatment plant, and it went all the way over to where the volleyball courts are now. So over the years, we've reduced our impact in that. We've used it as a public gathering space for various events and things of that nature. And the park boards thought that there was some commonalities with regards to the beach operations, the bathrooms, and the potential for this as well too. But ultimately, these are all factors in this neighborhood. And the park and the traffic issues are things that we would have to address going forward with regards to it. And there may be some additional costs associated with those too, if the problems prove to be the case.
So I got another question. That 135,000 that's available, potentially donations. You and Jim's conversation going back and forth, he made a statement that it would be easier for them to do the purchasing and then donating the assets versus donating the funds.
Correct.
And why?
And that's very similar to what has happened with regards to like the wooden playground and the dog park. I use those as recent examples. Then they're basically responsible. Jim's done the research, and I think he's done a very thorough job with regards to checking out various options, and he's demonstrated that to the Park and Recreation Board. If we're provided with the cash, then a lot of our purchasing requirements and things of that would go in, and you may want to go out to bids and things of that nature. It would change the mechanism. Either one's a viable option. I saw that the option that they basically get approval from the city to do a project, they do the project, and then turn it over to the city when it's done would be the simplest way to go forward and most straightforward.
What about donating the cash to Parks and Recs and then having it as a line item in the budgeting plan specific for that project? Because I mean, the wooden structure out here is a perfect example. I get talked to like I'm not allowing kids to play on the playground safely because of the repairs that are needed out there. And we don't have any budget and planning to repair and maintain the wooden playground that's out there right now. But people are approaching, the commission, making comments on social media outside of the skunk issue last summer.
Yeah.
The dire repairs and issues that are needed on the wooden thing. It's great to be donated these assets, but I'm looking at it as a decision strategically. Once we receive this and it becomes an asset of Boyne City, are we in place with a budgeting plan to maintain it, repair it, and consist? If the pump goes out in 2 years, do we have X amount of dollars to repair the pump? Well, just any.
The switch or
Right,
something
the
like that.
switch or any regards to the asset once it becomes city property.
Well, that's a good point, because whenever you acquire an asset, it also becomes potentially a liability as
Right,
well
an
too,
expense.
and there's maintenance costs. And that's why we set aside money in the parks budget for things such as maintenance of the wooden playground and some of the other
And no
facilities.
estimates on how this would impact the Parks and Rec budget.
Not at this point, no.
Well, pretty much just came right back around, so, again, you know, I think it's a great thing. I think it would be a nice asset to Boyne. And knowing that there's plenty of money in there, I remember when the share was donated. You know, to get it off the ground and running, and I think we'll have enough to back it up and figure that out. But that's right, there needs to be something in place to make sure.
Yeah, Mike, is there anything from lots, you said is it like a similar one, anything from them, or how much, you know, their annual cost is?
I could double check on that. I haven't received anything on that at this point from them. Their manager did say they get a fairly good season out of it, because I thought being up in the Upper Peninsula that they would just have a very small cycle, but they said they get a pretty good cycle out of it.
And I really give my lot of credit for the spirit of this, and the Parks and Rec for, you know, I think you did a nice job of putting it together where it should be, the best place it should be. You know, off the top of my head, I mean, with respect to the people who live there, I think, you know, being on the beach and being the kids out there playing and enjoying the beach, I think it's going to be a fun thing for them. It's, and you get kids outside, and get them off the TV and Xbox and playing outside. It's a good thing. Thank you, James.
I'm 100% in favor of this, and I'll tell you what, you know, what the city does, it provides services such as police, fire, ambulance, the city staff. On top of that, we provide assets, we provide pickleball courts, we provide softball fields, baseball fields, and a skating rink, and a sledding hill, and a swimming beach, and we've provided 2 good bike trails coming up to City Park and then up to Boyne. We provide a dog park, we provide the wooden playground, we provide open space, we provide a marina. That's what we do as a city. We provide assets for our community members and actually non-community members such as guests or township members. This is what makes Boyne City so cool. Is we have all these assets within our city limits and we take care of them. And when we acquire the open space, or when we acquire the dog space, or when we remodel the pickleball court, it's a legitimate argument or talk and discussion about what's it going to cost. But on the other hand, that doesn't bother me because the cost should be our responsibility for providing a great asset for our children. Again, that's what we do. That's why Boyne City is so cool. We have all of these neat things to do, and we pay for them, and we maintain them, and we improve. We just improve the pickleball course. We just improve the softball fields, and we improve the sledding hill. We improve the skating rink. I mean, that's what we do. We provide assets and maintain them and take care of them. So, I think the location is great. Sorry, Michelle, I disagree with you. I think it's a park. There's kids there. There's kids there that are swimming. There's families that are picnicking there. I'm there almost every day in the summer with my grandkids. It's a great little beach. 10 years ago, it wasn't, and it's been getting better and better because just through use, people are picking up the debris that was becoming unburied through the wave action, and it's becoming a pretty good little beach. And you know, you couldn't find a better spot. It has bathrooms, it has parking, it has an auxiliary parking lot. It has the sculpture, it's a destination, the beach is a destination. And to have the bathrooms and water and parking is just an asset. Plus, it makes it a full experience for the whole family. We can work out details such as traffic crossing. We can work out details as far as hours or lighting, or we can put the timer when they can't splash pad anymore. But there's kids down there swimming at 10 o'clock at night. I got my grandkids down there last summer swimming. When it's 90 degrees and the sunset is setting and it's 10 o'clock at night, we're down there swimming and kayaking and having a blast as a family. So, you know, absolutely. The beach is powerful at 10 o'clock at night. Maybe at 1 o'clock, yeah, maybe it's too late. Maybe after 10:30, maybe that's too late. I don't know. We can work that out. That's a simple detail to work out. The cost, simple detail, we can work that out. But this is a great asset for us. It's been on my personal list and to get, and there's a lot of support for it. Families love it. Thank you, Jim. It's going to be cool. And I support it 100%.
Jim, would there be any reason not to postpone this for a couple of weeks and consider it our next meeting? Because I'm hearing I sit on the Parks and Rec Commission, and I'm hearing a lot of comments that we can hear at Parks and Rec. And I just want to make sure that people are fully behind this and we can answer some of these questions.
One thing I don't think I stress is that this is a commercial law. The companies who don't is light commercial. For conservative less money. And I said, well, what's the difference? Well, light commercial is easier to record. So better off in church. You're going to get stainless steel fixtures. Everything's going to be designed to take whatever you want to do to it. Not going to be with normal use and right to the record. In fact, I mentioned pump. There's no pump. Works on city water pressure, which we have high city water pressure. My estimation. And choosing that site wasn't my first choice. I went more visible. This place right here is so far away from the transit, it's safe for the kids. You got some 3 of them wandering off in the wrong direction and kind of the trees. Put it in the park. It's probably like that in the park. You might be out of traffic. In fact, the bathrooms is a necessity for kids. That's the change the clothes perhaps. But also the water line that's needed to operate this thing is not normal house water pressure or water volume. You have 2-inch line, 2 inches inside that building. There's a 2-inch line right there already. It's shut up in the wintertime, and in the summertime, water's the water. And the drain is right there. All it takes is to get the drain. Get rid of the water. That saves a lot of money in choosing a site. The parking agreement with the town. There's 2 places to park. That first parking spot near the harbor is full. You can park with the volleyball court, which is very simple. Full. So, we can answer the question. I'd like to see it be done. They say 6 to 8 weeks to get the materials here to get started. You actually started before that. But I'd like to have it done this year as opposed to keep putting it off. Finally put it off, and we're going to be able to. Let's keep talking about it. It can be done in this, like I said, August, 2-week process the most. And we just got time. As far as lights, somebody mentioned lights, you definitely lights at the ballpark. Kids run out of thing on that, they're screaming at the top of the lungs. They're going to make the noise little kids make. Just don't see where the noise is. Across the street, there's very unattentive about their parents. Even needs to be some of those things that drops. People stop and just keep an eye on it. But I definitely thank you. Parks and Recreation. They recommend this spot. They recommend the location of the splash pad so that from the road, you're not going to get more blocking. The view. And people on Front Street are going to be intimidated with noise at the baseball game, something like that. Can be quiet. No lights for sure. So I planned to this. Tom asked the kids under 25, just right up, they can use it if you want, if you start down, turn it, you turn it up, you turn it up. Can't turn the beach up, you can miss it. So I'd rather see follow through. Yes or no, so we can get started, get ordered. You'd like the chance to ask a few more questions of the company. And then,
Well, I didn't see the motion.
I really appreciate you asking about the timing. I think that there are so many questions that all of you have heard. And I had today to go reach the residents in our area. I would imagine over the Harvard or the Harvard Marina, had I had the opportunity to speak with more people, I think there would be more like-minded people. I'm not saying that, again, I think it's a fabulous project. My kids would enjoy it. I think, George, you talked about the TV and Xbox, 100% on board. Tom, you talked about it being an asset in the community. Totally agree. I think there are questions that Tim raises regarding budget, and I'm raising regarding it being in a residential park, and we have non-residential parks available to us. One with beautiful new bathrooms over at Sunset that could easily be reconsidered. So I appreciate here that you suggested that we postpone till the next meeting, so it gives the Parks and Rec an opportunity to think about the public comments today, and for the commission to do the same.
I keep hearing residential park.
Please.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the Parks and Recreation Board for the splash pad to move forward with the project after staff investigates. Well, so it's written, I'm going to change it a little bit.
Yeah, see, funny recommendation, yeah.
Yeah. I would make a motion that we move forward with that splash pad. Okay, do you want to help me with that, Mike, or you? I don't want to put in there that it's based on operational. You said we're not going to have this after we run for a while, so I don't want to put that in motion. We also have funds covering the operation. We also approved all the other assets that I said without having a budget part of the motion. So I guess I'm the same. My motion is that yes, I'm making a motion to approve the splash pad to be built at Peninsula Park. I guess I'm asking what you said about.
Well, then I think staff investigates the business regarding the installation services. And you take it up to one sentence.
Yeah, you really need to remove the investigates annual operation and maintenance cost.
And check references. I don't need to check references. Set in my mind and my heart that this is the goal, and that's what my motion, I'd like it to reflect that. I don't want to put too many stipulations in.
One other thing that does, so consider the recommendation from the Parks and Rec Board for the splash pad and move forward with the project after staff investigates business regarding the installation of services.
After staff investigates an annual operation, you don't know that. It's said that.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, I said it right.
Okay. Consider the recommendation from the Parks and Rec Board for the splash pad and move forward with the project after staff investigates the business regarding the installation of services.
Yes, that would work. That would work. Just approve the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Board for the splash pad and move forward with the project after staff checks references of the business regarding installation and service. I'm okay with that. Is there a second? I second that. Jessica, did you get that?
No.
It's just taking up that.
Yes. So remove
the annual operation and maintenance costs.
right.
As a
I've got it.
Okay.
I've got the motion if you need it to be repeated. Yeah, based on what I've got is to approve the recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Board for the splash pad and to move forward with the project after staff checks references of the business regarding installation and services. That's what I understood was being discussed.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Hudson.
Aye.
Rudy.
Aye.
Buchanan.
Aye.
Laster. Nemecheck.
Aye.
Motion carried.
For everyone to have good conversation. Appreciate that. Moving on, we have the view corridor restoration on the base of Avalanche. Consider the recommendation from the Parks and Rec Board to have tree removal within the park boundaries of the base of Avalanche Hill. To have city staff work with volunteers to complete the work. Mike, will you please take that?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. The Parks and Recreation Board has been investigating options to improve and restore the views from the viewing platforms and at the top of Avalanche. Invasive tree species such as poplar and aspen have been encroaching further and further onto the face of the hill and have now grown to a height that has majorly impacted the line of sight towards downtown and westerly looking towards down Lake Charlevoix. The park board discussed that for many people, locals and visitors alike, the beautiful view that has been seen at the top was a reward for climbing the hill. That view has been narrowing over the years, compromising the view corridor, and will only continue to get worse as fast-growing invasive tree species spread further. 2 board members have volunteered several weeks ago to mark a sight line to determine the extent of the removals. Trees were marked with orange paint to create a boundary line. The marked trees and all the trees between the boundary line and the center of the hill are being proposed for removal. As they were doing this, they asked people on the trails and at the top of the hill their opinion. They received unanimous feedback from the people in favor of and excited about the possibility of having the views restored. One board member also stated that they knew of at least one volunteer who would help clear who helps clear the mountain trails in the area, who would be willing to do this as well. At their Tuesday, June 7th meeting, the board members climbed Avalanche to assess the view corridor and the trees that were proposed for removal. They were all in agreement that the issue should be addressed and felt that the boundaries marked lines were reasonable. They also felt that volunteers could be utilized as the diameter of most of the trees were fairly small, and that some could even be cleared just using loppers. The trees would be cut as low as possible to the ground, leaving the root system in place to guard against soil erosion. The downed trees would also be placed in various locations on the face of the hill to help control some of the major erosion issues taking place there. It would also deter hikers, bikers, and others from climbing the face of the hill, which has been creating an impression and a path for stormwater to run off and interrupt the trees would interrupt the current flow of the erosion as that's so prominent. They also discussed making sure that once a view corridor is restored, developing a maintenance plan to keep in place and trim every few years so that it's not such a big undertaking in the future. It was moved by Sterling and supported by Warwick and passed unanimously to recommend the restoration of the view corridor by removing trees within the marked boundaries of the face of Avalanche Hill and have staff work with volunteers to complete the work. And there are some pictures included showing some of the corridor blockage that is taking place at various times of year, and some of the trees that would be removed as part of this process. I think we have other members of the park board that are present that could discuss what took place as part of this process.
Michael, would you like to?
This has been prompted by several public comments of people. This is the corridor that's being pushed down. It's under, I think the hike up there ourselves, observed it and had universal support on the group after they examined where there's the boundaries at the time. We're not taking any forested trees that are significant. It's all these quite little poplars that are approaching and closing.
Yeah, we looked at it in two different, actually three different spots. The first spot is what we call the midway way, which I did return. Mike, you can scroll up a little bit. That's at the negative path. That's in the winter time, so you can see what you don't see in the summertime. You look through the trees and see like Charlotte, you see parts of downtown Boyne City. All that is gone right now. It's all blocked by those trees. The other thing we looked at is the two benches at the top, the two sitting areas. One, the larger one, looks down towards Boyne City. You can see on the left-hand side of the picture those trees encroaching on the view of Boyne City. On the other side, the right-hand side, looking down the hill, you can see on the right side picture there, all those trees that block the view looking down the shoulder. Look at from three different point of views, perspectives, and try to see how can we gain and gain and lost. And mark the trees, only the trees that are small in diameter that are obstructing the view. So not a lot of large trees, they will sell finish. And we just drop the trees right there and helps the illumination.
Is there a public comment?
I think that avalanche is one of those places people from here and all over go on that hill and look at that view, and it has become pretty blocked by some of the small trees. They're not big, beautiful trees. They're not, like you said, of any great value. And I think keeping it open and having people be able to appreciate how beautiful Boyne is and look at Lake Charlotte, along with that sunset, which I'm very big on it too. I think those are two of our greatest assets now. They set us apart from other communities. There aren't that many that have that kind of open view of the lake. And I think we need to protect them and we need to make them a drawing card so people know that Boyne City is unique. And this is one of the things that makes it unique.
Anyone else? Okay, we can go to the second.
Standing on 112 West Morgan Street. What are you gonna do with the trees? You gonna leave them there after they're cut, or?
Okay, we can move the board unless there's anyone else.
Yeah, sure. So, so going down the, where the steps came up, so when the steps first came, none of these were in there. And you had most of this view. So you said no big trees, these are bigger. Did you flag these? Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would be in full agreement with that. So you're just going to top them and leave them?
Come off the ground, drop them towards the center of the purpose of that is to try to reduce the number of bikers, hikers going up and down the hill, which is contributing to the erosion, which is another thing that parks the rec board is dealing with, how to control the erosion down there.
do significantly first. I got some solutions for it. Okay. So I guess I would just, I mean, a lot of the stuff down in front, I guess get drug off to the side. I also don't want it to look like, you know, a bomb. It's left there. I got no problem helping either. I mean, I'll be happy. And you know what works better than loafers is a portable saw tool. It does the job a lot quicker. I do it all the time. So I have no problem. I have no objection to it at all. I remember, you know, I guess my question to you is, so that pine tree is going to be removed too? Does that become a menace real quick and they'll say, that's fine. Just one of the bigger trees. Yeah. Okay, so how far down do you put the logs? I mean, that's, you know, it's going like how we got burned in here. What you know, because it's too much fun to see how far you can climb the river. I that all the way up. I still that's it. I'm good.
No, I think it's great. You know, it's amazing how quick this got over ground.
Yeah.
Like Barney said, I remember, you know, not too many years ago, right, there's a lot of top, I think, going down. One of my buddies, like geniuses. But yeah, you know, now it would be impossible. So, you see on top of it, what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'm full support. We've been talking about it for too long. Let's get it done.
I'm full support as well. The only concern I'll have, even though I'm still in full support, would just be some of the bigger diameter trees hanging up there during the winter and the kids trying to climb up there as high as they can, knocking some of that stuff loose potentially. If they're climbing on some of that stuff, it gets left up there. But I'm in full support. Just hope that it gets managed correctly when it is done. And it gets taken down. And the safety aspect is implemented when it is does get done. But yeah, I'm in full support.
Okay, I need to, so I'm going to do the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Board to have tree removal within the marked boundaries on the face of Avalanche Hill and have city staff work with volunteers to complete the work.
Is there a second? Just roll call, please.
Moody.
Aye.
Heathammer.
Aye.
Lassiter.
Aye.
Nemecheck.
Aye.
Conklin. Motion carried.
Okay, moving on to item C. 90,000 for the Rotary Park ball fields. Parks and Recreation was busy at it last week. Right, consider the recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Board to approve the purchase of 90,000 for the 2 baseball fields. Out of the funds from the current budget and have it installed as soon as possible. Mike?
Does the commission want me to review the memo or?
I've already read it, so I'm good. Unless anyone else.
I don't want to bore you if you want, you know, I'm just trying to.
Could you just cover all this?
Yeah, I mean, this is, we had a request from the local, many people that are involved with the Field of Dream project and other ball field users. We've installed diamond dust on some of our other fields in 2019. We've had good results with it. It's a very long standing product that helps reduce weeds, and it's easier for the players to slide in the feet and to use the baselines and things of that nature. So we've had good success for it. There had been discussion back in 2019 or earlier that we were going to continue this process going forward. COVID kind of upset everything and it kind of put everything on the back burner. It is not, so this project did not move forward. The park board talked about it at their last 2 meetings. And at their last meeting, they came up with this recommendation saying, yes, we should go forward with it and get it installed. It's an estimated cost of about $11,000. It'll come out of the park fund, even though this wasn't specifically earmarked for it. We do have funds set aside for Rotary Park. So they recommend going forward with this purchase. Just the nature of the product itself, it's dense enough, and it apparently has some qualities that don't encourage weed growth. No, I don't think so. I think it's just part of the natural product that's used in there. It isn't I'm not aware of it being treated with any chemicals or anything like that. It's more of a clay-based product.
Okay.
Full support, mostly it's a safety issue. The base paths are not at a level compliance with the bases. Those become safety issues.
Knowing that it's budgeted for it and it's coming out of the Parks and Rec budget, and this is what they want to spend it on.
Yes, they went to outset. I know they talked a little bit about the idea of this. So I have no issue.
I entertain a motion. Make a motion to approve the recommendation from Parks and Rec Board to approve the purchase of Diamond Dust for the tree-based ball fields out of funds from the current budget and have it installed as soon as possible. Do you want me to put a dollar amount? That's not it.
Yeah.
Yep. Purchase and not to exceed $11,000.
Sorry. Any further discussion?
Mayor?
He's got it.
The price is estimated to be $11,000, and the way things are going right now, I'd almost prefer that if the commission would give a not to exceed price and maybe bump that up to like $13,000 just in case. The pricing was a month or two ago, and I just want to make sure that we don't run into something.
Is that still on budget?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the recommendation would be within any means that the Park and Recs would like to spend the budget. So it's that's 11 or higher. So yeah, you can remove the $11,000 out of that recommendation.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on. We have an update on the quote for the striker car auto load for 51A2. Consider the recommendation from EMS Director John Lamont to authorize the additional purchase of the auto load cot upgrade. Its installation in the 5-year service agreement in addition $5,959 in cash and authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary documents. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we originally proposed this to you, I would say that the current structures that we had to not change the structures out because it was $27,000 a structure. And then when she gave us the quote this last time, she didn't include the retrofit of those kinds. So, but this means that the auto load comes out, takes the car out, brings it into the vehicle, picks up about 700 pounds. If you've been in my business as long as I have, I really appreciate this. And the difference in prices there is that that wasn't originally included. Also, I encouraged Mr. Kane to use the service agreement because it's a warranty. It's 100% guaranteed that over the course of 5 years, anything happens to the machine, they will replace it, fix it. They'll come by every year. And it gets a lot of sense. I mean, we need somebody to come in every year and service it. So this will be the same unit that's in 51 Alpha 1, 51 Alpha 2. I have a unit up in Boyne Valley that has one, and I'm working with the township as we speak to put in the second truck, which is all 4 of our trucks will have to go.
So, gentlemen, you're basically asking me to approve that amount as land. So you're asking for $6,050 $2,958 extra.
Yes.
It was left out of the bid that was given by Stryker. They will have one, and it will be both.
We'll have two. And that would give us the opportunity, right now we use one truck primarily because it has about 20 more miles on that truck. So we probably get almost 25,000 more miles on that one than we got.
Is there any comments or questions from the public?
More 37 North Street. I guess I just want to say that we have to remember that most of our people that man the ambulance, volunteers, and families that have other jobs, this kind of equipment really saves their health. And it's not really easy to find EMS right now. There's a lot of townships and cities that are short. So it's probably a really good investment to protect the people that run the ambulance for our city.
Anyone else? Full support.
I'm still in full support, even with the $5,958.97.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we passed the last month, I mean, it's definitely a great asset, you know, I understand, what Penny was saying, I appreciate what John said, I guess, you know, it's a pretty big miss, that's, you know, my frustration with Brady. I don't know how we just say something, oh, by the way, I forgot to, you know, we sold it in the bells and whistles, but now, now you can't put it in unless you give $6,000. Kind of disappointed with that. I guess we need to watch our paperwork a little bit better and cross our T's and dot our I's.
Is that what happened, John?
Yes.
Did they give a reason for why it was omitted or missed?
Originally, we were going to purchase the structure. My original request to the city was to purchase the $27,000 structure. Because the current structures that we have do have a shelf life. Now, we're over in Michigan, so we don't get the same use that we get out of Traverse City or Grand Rapids, or whatever, but there's still, there's a shelf life on that. So my original thought process was purchase the structure. And the salesman, when I removed that, we missed the fact that, well, we still got a retrofit the cuts that we have.
And I asked before, is this something that could be one of the other funds?
I'd have to double check on that. I think we could.
Are we too late for that?
No, we still have the money just sitting in the bank.
It sounds like a good use for it.
John, did you want to say something else?
No, I've given you two options. You can do a payment plan and really get paid up front. We have enough money budgeted to capital budget to cover either option.
What is the overall savings going with paying it off right up front versus the payment plan?
Probably about $3,500.
Okay.
10% interest.
Okay. All right.
So what?
Yep.
You started. Sorry. So we're going to go through the. Yep. Okay, sorry. I'm the support, so. Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation from EMS Director John Lamont to authorize the additional purchase of the auto load cot upgrade, its installation, and the 5-year service agreement for an additional cost of $5,958.96, paying cash and authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary documents.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion?
Lester.
Aye.
Nevertheless.
Aye.
Constance.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on, we have the Director of Public Works confirmation. Consider the recommendation from City Manager Michael G. confirming the appointment of Michael Lemay as DPW Director of the City of Boyne City as presented.
Pursuant to section 510C of our charter, I am pleased to present Michael Lemay to the City Commission for confirmation as our new DPW Director. The position was posted internally and advertised both locally and nationally earlier this year. Mr. Lemay was selected out of a pool of 6 applicants for the position. Interviews were conducted with 4 of the applicants by Police Chief Kevin Spate and myself. After the interview process, Mr. Lemay emerged as the lead candidate. Background checks were done on Mr. Lemay, including reference and non-reference discussions with people he has worked with and knows. A second interview was held with Mr. Lemay, and that also went very well. You've been provided separately a copy of Mr. Lemay's cover letter and resume. Although he has not worked specifically for a municipality previously, his experience and ability to work with and manage complicated projects, especially during his work with Central Michigan University, should serve us well. When hired, Mr. Lemay will be our first DPW director in many years who actually lives in Boyne City. As noted last year, when we previously filled this position, we remain fortunate to have a strong team of employees in our Public Works Department who know and can handle the day-to-day public works needs of our department very well. This is something that we have had to do since shortly after the beginning of the year. And some of our other applicants had very strong skills in these day-to-day operations. Our department requires a considerable amount of administrative effort, and that falls on the director's position, and that has been lacking over these past few months. This is the void that I am confident that Mr. Lemay can help us address from day one. Mr. Lemay would receive a salary of $66,000 in addition to other standard city benefits. He will not be receiving a pension benefit. The proposed package, compensation package is within our budgeted amounts, and he would serve as an at-will employee. If approved by the City Commission, Mr. Lemay would start on Monday, July 11th. So it's my recommendation that the City Commission approve the appointment of Michael Lemay as our DPW Director as outlined above. And Mr. Lemay is here, and I'd be glad to address any questions.
No, I think I've had an opportunity to speak with all of you. And the requirements of the job.
Okay, questions? We can move to the board's deliberation. If you want to start.
I can. So I met with Mike the other day, had a conversation with him, probably about 45-minute conversation. Went through his resume, his cover letter, the material that he gave me. Again, a funny position, I'll put that out there again. I'm not the hiring manager. The hiring manager is the city manager. I'm here to take the recommendation. With the conversation I had with Michael, I think it was a good conversation. The only concern that I have is the amount of time he sees himself potentially in this position. That got brought up in the conversation. In the conversation I had with Mike the day that I met him, I kind of made sure and let him know that with kind of how our community is running and operating right now, we have some warm fuzzy days and we have some very dark stormy days where, you know, if does he feel he can handle some of the personal attacks that potentially could be coming with this role. He had no issue with, you know, seeing that he does have the ability to handle those as they come, work through them, have those conversations, but he did not have a time that he could commit to for this role if he did get this role, which I did talk to him about. That is a concern of mine due to my experience of knowing how leadership is consistently transitioning in and out of a team. How it is hard for a team to be effective with procedures changing, leadership changing, the atmosphere changing. So it was a good conversation. That is the only concern that I had in the conversation after reviewing the resume with him. So that's where I'm at today.
I echo a lot of what Tim just said. The biggest thing, Mike yesterday sat around for close to an hour. It was a good meeting. I'm more concerned about we don't. I'm trying to weigh what is more important. Putting someone in the job right now, or you know, waiting to get someone that's going to commit to some time, because that's for sure. Everybody in this room that you will not commit to one time. That was frustrating. And I mean, you get the fact that I don't just know, you know, might be gone tomorrow. So time is of the essence. I get that, but you know, it was frustrating that the last process went the way it did. I'm fairly certain that Mr. LeMay would be here for more than 2 weeks, so I feel good about that part. I will just say in the process, you know, it's a lucky day because we have other hires coming down the pipe now that you know, we can't be looking for everybody in the city. There's no doubt that Mr. LeMay has a strong resume, so everybody in this room could be, you know, happy about that. But there were some very big questions on this.
I guess I relied a lot on, you know, Chief Spade, you know, and Mike did their homework, did the background stuff, and put the work into interviews and putting the applicant, you know, people together and doing their job. So I guess I'll stand by Chief Spade recommendation there.
Well, I agree with you, George, that the process hopefully worked, and we had the interview process with picking the best candidates, and I agree, Mike and Kevin, we're speaking on behalf of the city to the best candidate possible, and I trust the judgment. And frankly, your resume is impressive, and I will support it.
Yeah, I share the same comments that everyone has voiced here. I hope we have a long, great relationship with you, Michael, and I wish you the best, and I support the recommendation of City Manager and Chief State. So I did take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the city commission confirms the appointment of Michael LeMay as DPW director of the city of Boyne City as outlined above.
Is there a second? Second, George. Any other comments, questions?
I will just add that I did have a conversation with Chief Spade as well in regards to his recommendation, and he did have a strong recommendation. And one comment he did make is that the number 2 candidate, there was a far distance between Michael and runner-up.
Thanks for your work. Jessica, roll call, please.
Aye.
Conklin.
Aye.
Moody. Buchanan.
Aye.
Baxter. Motion carried.
Thank you. And welcome aboard, Michael. And we have a great relationship and move forward. I do as well. Thank you. We had to stand up so we can see your confirmation. Consider the recommendation from City Manager Michael Key confirming the appointment of Brenda Wilson as EMS Director for the City of Boyne City.
I already gave the charter reference in the last recommendation, so I won't repeat it here, but I'm very pleased to recommend Brenda Wilson to the City Commission for confirmation as our new EMS Director. This position was also posted internally and advertised both locally and nationally. She was selected out of a pool of 3 applicants for this position. Interviews were conducted by EMS Director John Lamont, Emmett County EMS Director Brian Patton, and myself. After the interview process, she emerged as our lead candidate. A background investigation was done on Ms. Wilson and came back fine. You've also been provided a copy of her cover letter and resume. You will see that she has worked with our EMS department for the past 6 years and has done a very good job for us. She has very good patient care and office skill and has worked very closely with our patient billing records for some time now. If approved by the City Commission, she will receive a salary of $65,000 per year in addition with other standard city benefits. The proposed compensation package is also within our budgeted amounts, and she would also serve as an at-will employee. If approved by the City Commission tonight, she would assume her new position on Monday, June 27th. And John Lamont will remain with us to help with the transition until sometime in July. So it is my recommendation that the City Commission confirm the appointment of Brenda Wilson as our EMS Director for the City of Boyne City as outlined above. And she is here as well, as is John.
I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I'm very excited.
John? EMS Director for the city, the horizon here.
I was thinking when we were talking about Mike, so I can't remember the last name. So, when I got hired, I was on the state 3. Scotty was going to graduate. So I think you got outstanding candidate. Will do really, really well. Great.
Thank you, John. Any public comment? Question?
Sure. I mean, looking through the package, appreciated the whole process that was gone through. The resume was expensive. It was great talking to a lot of the peer EMSs around the county, and everybody said it was great. It was a great choice. So.
Yeah, same thing. And, I was aware of some other EMS professionals with some pretty impressive resumes who also did this job. In fact, John and Brian, Mike, big friend is impressive. So.
Yes, again, I appreciate the process and the best rise to the top. I wish you luck. Good choice.
Yeah, I also met with Brenda as well, had a conversation with her. It was a good conversation. A lot of the same questions right in line. When I did get Brenda's packet, I was very, it was nice to see this one sheet she put in here, future goals and initiatives for improvements for Boyne City EMS. So in my experience for being a hiring manager for 11 years, it's nice to see a candidate that's very ambitious and eager to go and envisions themselves in that role already. So I have no question that I think Brenda will do an excellent job in this position.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of Brenda. I wish I could see Brenda. really hope the best for you. All you've done, your relationship with the department is, if you ask me, it's one of the most impressive ones I've had. With that,
Consider the recommendation from the city manager, Wayne County, confirm the appointment of Brenda Wilson as KLS director to the city of Boyne City and
Support.
Cochran.
Aye.
Mooney.
Aye.
Meehammer.
Aye.
Baxter.
Aye.
Henshaw.
Aye.
Motion carries.
It's here that you have great expectations for what you're saying. Okay, item G is a closed session on request from the city manager for discussion collective bargaining strategy as provided in NCL 5.33 of additional open meetings act. But before we go into executive session, we have good of the order. We will come out of executive session. I don't expect us to make any decision at all. For the parties here.
Yeah. Yes. Ma'am, we received a letter, landscaping of City Hall, and that it could stand improvement. I'm an landscape person myself. What improvement looks like, but I would think that it's, I would recommend to you, Mr. Mayor, that I recommend the staff look into it and see what we can come up with design wise. Obviously, less maintenance, easy maintenance, but also so it's good looking. Put it out to bid. Done. I don't think there is time nor the skill, but that would be my request if I have support from the fellow commissioners to turn it to staff to investigate.
Yeah, we're taking some immediate steps. I've been working with, we've had a problem with the area out by the main entrance. It really hasn't performed as we anticipated. A lot of the landscaping that we had here, we can see on the patio behind us isn't as good as we expected as well too. We had people that suggested that we had volunteers that came in that improved it last year, but we need a lot more. So we're looking at, I've been working with the DPW, looking at some long-term solutions, and some of the other ones, basically would need to do exactly what you talked about, bid it out and have some people come in and replace what we have. So we're working on it. You'll see that some of the bushes that died over the winter have been removed. So we're kind of just getting started in that.
Thank you. My second item is tomorrow night we start some music in the park right up here. I heard there's a really good band. So that's all. Thank you.
All I was going to do was, go back and readdress Leah's concerns, and I would like those not to go unheard or unresolved. We do have some, we do have a few very bad aspects of that in a couple areas. So I think those are some things that we do need to put some immediate attention.
I was just wondering in regards to the CCTV at the pavilion, to help out the vandalism, hopefully, kind of where we're at with that, if it's been installed, if that's working.
We've had that in the pavilion for quite a last year sometime.
Yeah.
Just some retrofit stuff we have waiting to do yet.
Did you, because when we're going through the budgeting process, you wanted some of the remote, like the, how do you movable CCTV equipment, portable CCTV equipment. We're getting that. Okay. Okay.
That's something that we do with it. We still have, we have the, new funds that we have for the government. We don't put that away, we still have.
Yep.
Some more.
All right, well, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request of city manager Michael Kane to go into closed session for discussion of collective bargaining strategy as provided in MCL 15.323A of Michigan Open Meeting Act.
Moody.
Aye.
Newcomer. Lassiter. Newcheck.
Aye.
Concord. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Are we staying here? No, we'll go into the across the line. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope he proves me wrong.
You too.
Yes. give me a sec to unmute and start the recording again. You're good.
I entertain a motion to open the regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to go back into open meeting.
Second. All those in favor? Say aye. I didn't entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?